welcome to the 2024 Planning Congress podcast. In partnership with the Planning Institute of Australia, UrbanTalk is hosting a special podcast series in the lead-up to the 2024 Planning Congress that's happening in Melbourne between the 22nd and the 24th of May. The 2024 Congress theme is Reinvention, Planning in a Time of Change, and it's all about how the planning profession can seize opportunities in this moment of change. For this podcast series, we'll be inviting some of the speakers at Congress to talk about their respective topics. The full Congress program is now available, so if you haven't registered yet, I encourage you to go to the Congress events page of the PIA website. In this episode, we're talking about the PIA National Awards for Planning Excellence, and it's going to be split into two parts. In this first part, I'm speaking with Megan Adair, who is a judge of the National Awards program, as well as the State Awards convener for Western Australia. And in the second part of the episode, I'm going to speak with last year's Young Planner of the Year, Bon For You. Welcome, Megan, and thank you for joining us for part one.
Thanks, Belinda, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
Great to have you on board and to get your insights as a very sort of seasoned judge of the Planning Awards. You've got over 30 years of experience as a planner in senior leadership roles, both in state and local government, as well as within the private sector. And you're the founder and the director of your own advisory business, Adair Advisory. So congratulations on that. That's fantastic. Your impeccable career and experience makes you exceptionally well placed to judge the national awards. And so it's great that all of our nominees are in very capable hands, because I know a lot of work goes into putting their nominations together. The National Congress is important because it's that time of year when the National PIA Awards for Planning Excellence are announced and they're celebrated. For me, the PIA Awards and the PIA Awards, ceremony, it's a little bit like the Logies. It's our night of night for planners. And I believe this year the awards are going to be announced at Congress on the opening night at the welcome reception. So luckily the nominees won't have to wait too long to find out if they're the national winners. I find that the PIA Awards can often get overlooked in the media by other development sector awards, such as those given out by the Property Council or the Urban Development Institute of Australia. But they're really important for our profession because they're an acknowledgement of the exceptional work and research that's being championed by planners right around Australia. And I feel that all too often the politics of planning takes away the limelight from the positive work that our profession is doing. And the PIA Awards seem to elevate and showcase what is happening away from the torrid political scene and sort of restore some balance and uplift to planners who are diligently working both in public and private sectors. Megan, as a state award convener and as a national judge, from your perspective, why are the PIA Awards so important for our profession?
I am, as the state convener for WA, anyone that attends our awards night hears me rabbit on about this a bit because awards are incredibly important. It's an acknowledgement not only of good work, but from your peers to say, we actually celebrate you and the work that you are doing. We're pleased that you are here and you're contributing to the betterment of communities, to our places and to our lives, because really planning affects everybody's day-to-day life in one way or another, and it needs to be celebrated and recognised. I agree with you that it is overshadowed by some of the other awards that come through, and it's a shame because as a profession, I think we need to actually beat the drum a lot more. Planning has been going through, certainly in WA, a very difficult phase with the community and a lot of backlash over decisions that have been made. And it's often due to a lack of understanding and clarity as to why things are done in that way. So to be able to say proudly, we did this project and it's been recognised by all of our peers and by the state and in some cases the nation as being an excellent process and project. I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. And later in the podcast, we're going to talk about some of last year's projects. I'm looking forward to hearing your sort of take on why those projects are standing out as being so important and prominent and what they've contributed to their built environments. I really like the way that the awards are structured across a lot of individual categories you can select from when you want to nominate a project for an award. We've nominated a couple of times and we're usually interested in community engagement and planning tech. I think planning tech is a relatively new category that's been added, which is great. Can you walk us through the individual award categories? Because they're very diverse and they cover many different areas of planning.
I'll list them first and then I might just make a couple of comments. Climate change and resilience is one, community wellbeing and diversity, great place, improving planning processes, planning with country, very important, planning research, stakeholder engagement, strategic planning project, technology and digital innovation, tertiary student project, and then the Young Planner of the Year. Now, as a judge, I would have to say that sometimes people really struggle to work out which category they sit within. And sometimes we have to go back to people and say to them, we think you'd actually be better off in this category or that, depending on what it is, particularly when it comes to things like climate change and resilience, community wellbeing and diversity, and, strategic planning projects. They often kind of blur across lines. So if in doubt, certainly people should always ask the question, but also, we do see nominations in multiple categories for the same projects. That's fine. It's okay to do that.
What tips would you give to planners who are interested in nominating one of their projects for a future planning award?
Please do so, because the more nominations we have, the better. And, it also, when it comes to the actual awards ceremony, you end up with more people there, which, is just great to see planners coming together to celebrate. The other thing is, don't be put off by the actual documentation that you've got to put through. It's generally a lot of the things that we see are put in for other awards as well. You can adapt nominations that you've used previously. The other tip, the key tip, please address the criteria, because it's very hard for us to read through, and you are very familiar with your project. We're not. You have to feed us the information for us to understand why it is excellent in this field, not just, oh, we did this and it was really well received and it's, so it's been so good for this community. So, but why is it better than anything else? What's different about it?
Is it important for nominations to be professionally, published or desktop published?
No, not at all.
So anybody can just put together a Word document and forward it to you?
Yeah, there are certainly the forms that you have to fill through, and so you have to have certain documentation that accompanies your nomination. But generally, an organisation can do a nomination itself. Shameless promotion. I'm happy to write award nominations because I do see a lot of them are really poorly written. And that, like I said, this is why I come back to address the criteria. It doesn't have to be, hundreds of words. In fact, the shorter the better, but actually hit the mark. Why?
We've put in a couple of award nominations over the years. We've won a couple of New South Wales state commendations for community engagement, but we've never won a national award, sadly. It must be a tough decision to select a national winner from such a high-profile, number of nominations. So can you tell us a bit about the judging process that takes place for the national awards?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We have representatives from all states as the judges, and we then do a blind judging. So we're generally divided up into different categories. Of course, you have to nominate initially if you have any conflict of interest. Then we're put into different categories so that there's a bit of an even spread of amount of material you've got to go through, because some of them we get lots, like every state will have a winner and others not so much. So the workload is spread across all of the judges. We then do a blind judging all on the same Excel spreadsheets, and they are then fed through to the organisations through the National PIA Association and then put together in one document. We then come together on a Teams or Zoom meeting, and the national convener comes to those as well, Darren. That's the first time we see everybody's scores. So we have scoring criteria that we have to put it to, and also a section for notes. Definitely fill in all the notes, because sometimes there's a bit of a time lag between us getting together and you having done your judging. So then we actually get to talk about each of the nominations and why we scored the way we did. sometimes it's pretty obvious and other times not so much.
And what happens if the judges can't all agree on an outright winner, I guess? Has that ever happened? I guess an outcome where you award more than one?
Yes, absolutely. We do award more than one, and sometimes there's two. Other times we agree that there's actually no winner, but a commendation. If we cannot agree because we're split, we continue to talk like it's a real process. So you put forward you advocate for your position, you listen to the others. Sometimes you concede and say, oh yeah, I see that, that's true. And this is really where the national convener comes into play, because Darren is very good at being able to then talk about more the planning side of it at a national level, because we do come to it as individuals, if you like, and with our experience and our knowledge. And he'll ask some very strategic questions. Darren Crombie is very skilled at that side of life. And so, then you start thinking about it a little more politically in some regards, and also just from an excellence point of view. And then generally, not generally, always, we end up with a resolution.
Do you find that projects being put up for awards are the mixture, say, of public sector projects as well as private sector projects?
Absolutely. And, that's part of when we start to have diverse opinions. We do look at that side of life, because obviously government and the private sector can throw money at projects sometimes, and they're able to put together all sorts of things that individuals or smaller local authorities, that sort of thing, really struggle because they don't have the funding. So we do look at that and say, well, was this done by an individual? Was it done by a large department or a team of experts? And therefore, it does come into play when we're considering the outcome.
Is there one category of the awards that generally dominates, that you seem to get an unusually large number of nominees for?
Great Place generally has a nomination for everything, because everywhere's got great places. Generally, things like the strategic planning projects, because strategy dominates a lot of what we do.
And have you finalised the judging yet for the 2024 awards?
Yes, we have.
Ooh.
I'm not giving anything away.
Yeah, I guess mum's the word. But from what you've seen, what is impressing you about this year's nominations?
Every year you're kind of a bit blown away by the work that's being done. It's quite fascinating, and it's really interesting. Some of the projects, just the breadth of the areas that they cover, down to very niche, small areas, and just the topics of research are fascinating and very topical at the moment, like really important to looking forward into the future of us as a profession and our influence, not just influence, but the role we play in society.
And I guess that's what makes the awards, a great resource actually for planners. So, often when we starting projects and we're sort of looking for inspiration or just looking at what is at the cutting edge, it's always a good idea, isn't it, to actually go back and look at some of the award winners.
Yeah, I 100% agree. People should see these as a resource. All the information in the awards document that comes out, is presented at the national awards, has details as to the project and who did what. So you can always contact people. I mean, it really is a resource. And I think so many times we start to reinvent wheels, and we don't need to. Tap into what is out there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I suppose it's really a good thing to start, I guess, where I'd like to take our podcast to, because I know you can't talk about the 2024 winners. So let's talk about some of the 2023 winners and see what some of the learnings are from those projects. I thought it was really great to see a national award going to our colleagues in the Northern Territory, with the Strategic Planning Award going to the City of Darwin for their 2030 suite of strategies. Can you give us an overview of this project and what really made it stand out as a national winner?
Yeah, this was an outstanding winner from last year, and I'm really pleased that they took it out. Darwin has some fairly unique propositions about it, as far as its location, the different climate issues that it has to deal with, its isolation, and different community elements. So to see it look holistically at the city, to look holistically at its suite of strategies, to look forward. And I mean, truly, we see a lot of strategic projects come through, not just in awards, but in our day-to-day life, and they're good, they address things, but are they truly strategic? We believed that this one was. The suite of strategies included climate and emergency strategy, movement strategy, and greening Darwin, all of which are incredibly important to a city on the coast and with the tropical rain and everything that they get, as well as the dry. So, greening, getting people out in a hot environment so that they can move. They really were looking at the city as a place for the future and for the future residents. It's a very good suite of strategies.
That's great. It sounds very practical in its outcomes.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, very implementable, if that's a word.
Yeah, fantastic. I know you're a proud Western Australian, so you must have been pretty delighted that WA took out the National Great Place Award for Matakwadini Park, Wellington Square. What were the urban design and cultural qualities of this project that set it apart from other nominees?
Fabulous place, and well done, City of Perth. They actually have taken out a number of awards, including landscaping awards and urban design awards for this project. It's a very large area in central Perth. It's in East Perth, but it's very accessible by train, bus, and car. It was an area of blight. It was not used by a lot of the community. It did have an area where on the weekends trucks would come in for homeless people. So there was food trucks, and you could, a mobile washing machine truck and that sort of thing. So really good, but a lot of antisocial behaviour in the park. Turning it into a great place that actually invites multitudes of people of different cultural, ethnic, and social areas. They've done an amazing job. Huge infrastructure build for children, still a very large area for community. And I know that every Christmas Day, there's the Christmas in the Park, which is run for a not-for-profit organisation to feed homeless people. I have volunteered at that on a 42-degree day. That was interesting. And there's a lot of different activities that people can do. On the weekends, those social amenity trucks still come in, and there's an area associated nearby that people can go to as well. You go there now on a weekend, even on a weekday, there are lots of people using this. The other thing that they did very well in making it a great place is the engagement that they undertook to actually obtain what is it that the community wanted, what would be used, what would actually make this a special place in the heart of Perth. And I believe they delivered it.
And what were some of the strategies that they used for the engagement?
Well, they didn't put in for community engagement, so they didn't outline it. It's a bit of a shame because I think they do community engagement very well at the City of Perth. My understanding of it was that they held a lot of things on site. They did online surveys. They went to the East Perth community on a broader level. They went to businesses around it. They actually, closed down roads for a weekend just to get people's input. And they certainly engaged very well with the socially disadvantaged and Indigenous community in that area as well. It's important to be able to provide spaces for everybody and everyone to feel welcome and safe.
Yeah, with such a diverse user group, I mean, it's great to see that they went to those lengths. Yeah, fantastic. There are two award categories of special interest to me. One's the President's Award and the other is the Young Planner of the Year Award. And I know I'm going to be speaking with Bunfu Yu, who took out the 2023 National Young Planner of the Year in part 2 of this episode. But from your perspective, Megan, and as a national judge, how do you select the winners for these two important categories?
Okay, so the President's Award we don't select. All of the nominated winners are presented to the President, and I suspect that Darren goes through them with the President and it is selected that way. So we don't know who's getting that either. The Young Planner, it's a fantastic category. It's such an important category. What we do look for, it's what do you give to the profession? So we look for not only that you're working really well and that you've got a steady job, but that you are working with other planners. You're promoting planning beyond the planning profession. You're very engaged with it as a professional. And it's not just about being a member on a committee. It's got to be active contribution. And we've got some outstanding young planners in this country. Yeah, but it's a tough one. It's a very tough one to call every year.
It'll be very interesting to see who takes out this year's Young Planner of the Year award as well. I'm sure Bunfu will be very sad to give up that title.
She'll always have it, though. She'll always have it.
She'll always have it. That's very true. That's very true. We're not too far away from Congress now. So what are you most looking forward to about the awards presentation at Congress? Is it the celebratory drinks afterwards, or is it actually just seeing the reactions of their nominees when they're told that they've won, or what buzz do you get out of it?
There's always great energy around awards. So what's interesting about the national awards is it's very short and sweet. It's to the point. It's on the opening night. And it's the first thing that people come to. So, people are seeing one another they haven't perhaps seen for quite some time. So there's that Love Actually kind of energy, know, and so that's really nice. And there is always that little bit of anxiety and hope from people. And then it's just the celebration of those that win. And, seeing other people who have nominated but didn't win go up and say congratulations to others. It's a really great moment.
Yeah, I think it's great being on the opening night because it does give anyone who's attending Congress the opportunity to actually go and sit down with the winners and to just ask those questions and to capture some of that additional detail about what they've achieved with a particular project. So no, it is good that it happens on the opening night.
Yeah, anecdotally, I know that in previous years, young planners have met people from interstate, etc., that they've ended up going and doing work with or forming very close bonds with. And I also know other winners that have gone on to do collaborations. So people do meet, and there is really good that comes out of this.
It's a great thing about Congress. We're not a huge profession, but it's really great how we're all able to come together to celebrate at National Congress. And I'm really looking forward to it now. I'm particularly looking forward to finding out who the winners are for the 2024 awards.
Build the excitement.
Absolutely.
And, people come along.
And get dressed up for the awards ceremony as well.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
May not be to the same extent as the Logies, but, Megan, I've really enjoyed talking with you today. Thank you for your insights into being a judge on the PIA Awards. Actually, one question I would mind to ask you just before we finish off. How do you become a judge on the PIA Awards? Is it something you are approached by PIA to be a judge, or can you actually put yourself forward as a judge?
Well, I was approached, and I suspect it was because I was the WA Awards convener. I'm sure that they would be happy to get some personal volunteers come forward. Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, you are approached.
Like you, I'm really looking forward to the awards presentation and to celebrating with this year's winners at Congress. So I look forward to seeing you down there and to having a celebratory drink at the welcome reception with you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Belinda, and thank you for, UrbanTalk and bringing planning and the importance of planning to the masses.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. I'll take that. If you haven't already registered, I encourage you to go to the Congress events page of the PIA website. If you have any questions, please email congress@planning.org.au. My name is Belinda Barnett, and thank you for listening to the 2024 Planning Congress podcast.